out as bar food cook. So it was for Biba, which is now, what is the restaurant? Bistro du Midi, exactly. So Biba, I was the bar food cook. When you went into the bar at Biba and you ordered chicken wings, I was the one who made them. For that year. Thank you. Well, actually, I only made them for 3 months because I guess I was a good bar food cook. I got promoted to the next level, gourmet, which is salad. So if you ate a salad, I also made those. And I did that for a year and loved it. Let me change that. I liked it very much. But I knew that the next step on it was sort of like when I was at Monitor. What's my next step going to be? Do I want to go to business school? No. I knew that the next step from gourmet making salads was that starting to butcher meats and mix stocks and all that stuff. And I was just like, I like being here, but I don't like this. What I did like, however, was this, which was the pastry station, which was right next to my station. And about 2 or 3 months into my job at Biba, I noticed that I was spending a lot of time at the pastry station, helping out the pastry cook. And he was really willing to help me out. So we spent a lot of time just swapping, and I would do his station. So at the end of my first year at Biba, I thought, I love being here. My job is good, but I want to do that. And I asked Lydia, can I do that? She didn't have an opening for me, but she said, you should go and work for my opening pastry chef, who has opened a bakery in Newton Center called Bentonwood Bakery. And that's Rick Katz, who owns Pico down the street. Now, at the time he had Bentonwood. So that's what I did. I went to Newton Center and I worked for Rick for a year, changed my path to pastry. And at that point, I did feel, okay, this is going to be a career. My first year cooking, it wasn't a career, it was just a year off to do something that I enjoyed. I was 24, going on 25. There was really no thought of the future. But I want to open a bakery. I want to open a bakery like Rick had. And I want to do it in Boston because I don't want to have to take the Green Line every day to go to work. And, I want something within Boston. And at the time, this was 1997 or 8 that I was thinking about it, 6, 7. There were no bakeries. There were very few bakeries. High Rise had just opened, I think the year before Flour did. So High Rise hadn't even opened at that point, and there weren't any bakeries. So I was in New York and decided, you know what, my lease is coming up. I don't want to be in New York for a long period of time. I'm going to go back to Boston and I'm going to open up a bakery. And it's obviously an awesome neighborhood, and I love it, and it's been my life, and I couldn't be happier. It's the best thing ever. I never would have done anything else. I wouldn't be here with the book and any of this if I didn't have what ended up being a really great, I don't want to use the word problem because it makes it sound negative, but a really, really big challenge, which is we had too many customers, I had too many great staff, and I just had too much demand for everything that we were doing. And we had the one little bakery. I was living upstairs, running downstairs every day to do the bake-off, and people were just like, you need to do more. And my staff was like, I need more responsibility, I need to do more. So we opened the second one, which is behind it's in 4 Point Channel behind the Children's Museum. And that opened 4.5 years ago. And then for the same reasons, we opened the third one, which was that's how this book process started. Somebody came to me and said, I'd be interested in co-authoring a book with you. If you're interested in doing it with me, then I'll help you. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and some people might not need a co-author, or some people might want to publish it themselves. There's many different ways, but for me, it was this person coming to me. And she kind of helped me understand the process, which I've now gone through once and I'm going through again because I'm writing a second book. So what happened after she contacted me was she said, you need to get an agent because you need to find somebody who's going to take our proposal that we're going to write and give it to all the different publishing houses. So she had an agent, and I met her agent. I liked her. So I said, big quantities to make hundreds and hundreds of scones and cookies, etc. And they're all in grams, and it's all weighed. And so the first thing I had to do was bring everything down to, instead of 24 pounds of butter, to half a pound of butter. And then I had to change everything from, well, pounds is already in pounds, but most things everything's in kilos. I had to change everything to pounds and ounces and cups and teaspoons and tablespoons. And then I actually had to test that because what works when you do it with 24 pounds doesn't always work when you do it with half a pound. I was just telling you about that happened for about a year. It was about a year, just back and forth and back and forth. I would write the recipe, test it, send it to Christy. She's in San Francisco now, but we just did everything online. I would send it to Christy, and then she would read it through and ask questions, and sometimes she would test a recipe if it sounded kind of weird to her, and then she would send it back, and then I'd retest it again. And then I had students at Cambridge Culinary who were testing for me. I had interns who came in and tested for me, and that was all the testing we had. After the manuscript was done, I turned it into Chronicle, and then they do what's called a line edit, where they go line by line, and they, cross out this word and change this. And that took about 2 or 3 months for that, and then they send it back, and all of a sudden you have this manuscript which you thought was perfect because you worked so hard on it, and every single line, it's like every single sentence has a line through it and another word. And, just to give you an example of the type of stuff that they did, when I like something a lot, say, I love this, I love that, I love this, I love a lot of things. And the copy editor wrote back, and she said, you cannot love this many things. She said, that makes you sound disingenuous. And I was like, you don't know me. I do love these things. And so she took out a lot of the loves and changed them to like, and I can't remember, there was one that was just so not right. So I put them all back in. I changed some to adore, so you see adore in there a couple times. Crazy about was a good one. I'm happy with crazy about. But so those are the types of things where she would come back at me and say, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. There are still mistakes in the book, and I freaked out when I found the first one because somebody emailed me and was like, this isn't summary. I was like, oh my gosh. And then there are 4 major ones in the first printing, so they changed them in the second printing, a couple more there, and they changed them. I was so upset about this that I contacted Rose Levy-Berenbaum, who's a baker and pastry chef extraordinaire, who's written the Cake Bible, the Bread Bible, the Pie and Pastry Bible. She's been around forever. And I know her just professionally, and I was like, Rose, like, this is awful, and she was like, oh my gosh, this happens all the time. She's like, you only had 4 the first time? You're like, you are so lucky. So I guess this happens a lot, so it made me feel a little bit better. I don't know who asked the question, but I've been a runner since college, actually. And then, excuse me. So I run a lot, I bike a lot now in summer. And then also, I think that when you are surrounded by food all the time, and it's what you do for work, you view it a little bit differently. And so you don't binge on chocolate chip cookies, for example, because they're always there. And you know they're going to be there tomorrow, and they're going to be there the next day. And so when I go to work, I try things. I taste the cookie, and I'm thinking, does this have the right amount of salt? Did they mix this enough? I'm like, okay, that seems good. And then I taste something else. And so it's always about like tasting, judging, assessing, seeing if it can be improved, and then moving on to another. And so that's really where, at this point, pastry has become in my life, at least at the bakery. And when we go to other places, like we just went and got a bunch of pastries at another place just to check them out. Everyone, we took a bite, we judged it, we looked at it, we thought, what would we do differently? And then we put it aside. So there's a lot of food around us all the time, but we're all thinking about it in a different way than one does when you're just enjoying it for pleasure. I think that kind of helps.
Well, thank you so much.